It's time to talk taxes.
New friends, new opportunities, new partners. EG Tax.
It's Ask the Tax Lady with Esther Gulius and EG Tax on News Radio 930 WBEN. To reach Esther now, call 803-0930. Toll free at 1-800-616-9236. And cell calls are free at star 930. And now, live from the WBEN studios, it's Esther Gulius.
Hey, everybody, this is the Tax Lady, and this is our hour to talk about taxes and money and everything that has to do with taxes, and whether you haven't filed, if you owe money, if you're getting love letters, if you're one of those people that are still waiting for your New York State refund and they're asking for your W-2s, this is the place to get free help. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone. And today, those of you that are parents that are trying to get your kids into college and you're thinking of wrestling with those FAFSA forms and you're wondering about how to get financial aid and do you qualify for financial aid, how you're going to pay for college, besides voting for Bernie Sanders, we think we have a special guest here that's really going to help you. We have Jeff Boren here from the Financial Guys. He's a certified college planning specialist, and if you're wondering whether you can beat the system, can you get financial aid, you have somebody that really wants to help you, and we want to help you. And I got Chris Fabian here from EG Tax, and so we have a great show planned for you today, right? Christopher?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Right.
And Jeff, hey, thanks for coming in.
I'll butt right in.
I appreciate it. So we were talking before the show, and by the way, I know that harking back to what we just listened to on ABC News, it was a shock. They said that Muhammad Ali was not ill that well. Yesterday I was looking on MSN and said that he wasn't that sick, but obviously he took a turn for the worse. So
thoughts and prayers with this family.
Right. What a great fighter.
All right, now let's talk about education, and we're also going to talk about the tax aspect of education and the education credits, because there's already things in the system that can help you for your child to go to the first 4 years of education. But those of you that are wrestling with sending your kids to college, what college to go to, I think, Jeff, you have you've really devoted so much of your career to helping people to get their kids ready for college and do it as cost effective as possible.
That's right. No matter how much money you make, you really should get some help in putting together a plan, putting together a guide path. I don't know too many families in Western New York that can pull their checkbook out and write $45,000 5 times. That's one of the problems with college today is less and less students are getting out in 4 years, and so even our best planners are saying, here's the college cost for 4 years. We look at something like UNLV, great school, 23% of students graduate in 4 years. That means 77% don't.
Right.
5-6 year plan. So
right.
You've got to plan the whole thing, but there are strategies that you can invoke for people regardless of your income. Probably the biggest myth in college planning is, I make too much money, I'm not going to bother with this.
Right.
And that's a huge, huge problem.
Okay, so why would that be a problem? I mean, let's say somebody's making $175,000, $180,000 a year, and they have their first child going to college next year. Do they have a leg to stand on?
They sure do, because college is a business, and colleges want full pay students. So you think about that. Canisius College is competing with Niagara locally, who's competing with UB, who's competing with St. Bonaventure. Everybody wants that full pay student. So what are they going to do? They're going to see that, and they're going to try to discount to attract that person.
Right.
It's almost like, you think about nursing homes, right? Nursing homes don't want people going in on Medicaid. They want people to private pay or
right.
have insurance.
Right.
So they want those people, and it's like, well, you're going to get your own room if you private pay.
Right.
They're the same type of incentives, if you think about the colleges are doing, because they are trying to attract full pay students. So college financial aid directors have what's called discretionary authority. Discretionary authority means they could give Bill Gates a Pell Grant. Nothing you can do about it. They can do
Okay.
whatever they want. They can give discounts. They can give, quote, scholarships to parents that are full-pay parents. They won't know that unless you go through the process.
All right, so you got to do the FAFSA form anyway.
Right. Well, there's one more form. There's actually a couple forms out there. There's a FAFSA form, which everybody talks about. Every school in the United States will take the FAFSA form. There's another form that is required by a little over 300 colleges, which is called the CSS profile. Those are mostly the private schools. So we're looking at things like Syracuse University, Hamilton, RIT. They would require a supplemental or additional form that's issued by the College Board, which is very, very in-depth. So some of the strategies you could use with a school that uses the FAFSA or what's called the federal methodology won't work with the CSS profile. So you've got to kind of know that going in.
All right, so is part of what you do, though, if I have a kid that's getting ready for college, do you sit down with me and say, okay, what college should they go to? What are they going to study? Are they going to a liberal arts program? Is it cheaper to go to UB? Should we even consider UB? I mean, is that part of what you do with the parents?
That's part. If they're at that stage already, that's part of what I do. We actually have another group that is now working with parents to help pick majors, help guide, I should say, the student with majors, careers, and colleges. That's an art in itself, and it's a lot of work that goes into that. So before you make some of that investment, it's good to do that. But it's great to come see me before you go visit these colleges, and I'll tell you why. We have parents in the summertime. The kids are off of school. They think it's a great idea. Let's go visit these colleges. Let's take a drive, and let's go to Ithaca. Let's go look at this school. Without really understanding the whole dynamics of the cost, where they fit in the financial aid situation, is there possible merit aid, etc. The analogy I have is your son or daughter turns 16 and they're going to start driving, and you're going to get them a car so they can go back and forth to McDonald's to work, and you take them to the BMW dealership and drive
That's
a new BMW.
exactly right.
You know, and
That's
say,
exactly right.
Let's go drive one of these. What do you think? Do you like it?
Or go shopping in a mansion and say, gee, do you like this mansion? Can't afford it, but, no, and it's absolutely true.
So before you start doing that, because here's the scenario, and I've been doing this since 2003, I watch this progress every single year in and year out. The parents are more engaged. They want to talk about these schools because they're talking about it with their friends, and the parents at the sidelines of the soccer game or the sidelines of the softball game, and they're real proud saying that, well, Johnny's looking at Ithaca, and we think Ithaca wants him. Now, Ithaca wants him means they got a postcard in the mail from Ithaca. But I've heard this time and time again, Ithaca wants him. So they drive to Ithaca, and I'm not picking Ithaca, maybe Syracuse, maybe Harvard, maybe Boston College. They drive out there, and they fall in love with the school, and then there's the emotional letdown after the kid has told all his friends, and they've told their parents, who are now spreading around, oh, did you know Johnny's going to Boston College? That's a really great school. Then all of a sudden they have to go back and they say, well, maybe Boston College isn't going to work after all.
Yeah.
So before you get to that point with your son or daughter, let's come talk about it.
Chris, we talk to people all the time when we're doing their tax return, and and you just had a daughter graduate from UB
right.
this year. It's like looking at a roadmap and to where you want to get there, but you don't even know where there is to get to.
Well, yeah, I think part of the problem, and you might, Jeff, can feed on this one too, is that parents are so excited that their kids are gonna go to a college. They don't care what college it is and what degree it is, but look at the whole piece of the puzzle.
And that's really what you're talking about.
Right.
Look at the return. College is an investment, just like any investment that we manage with financial guys. College is an investment, and you have to look at that return on the investment.
All right, so if you're sitting there and you've got kids, grandkids, getting ready for college, and you're saying, I don't think that I'm going to get financial aid. I don't understand why I should even do this. And you want to pick Jeff's brain. You can call us here in studio, 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone. We certainly I mean, this is really a conundrum for thousands and thousands of people getting ready to send their kids to college or kids that are in college right now. I mean, is it too late if you got Johnny plugged in at this school to kind of unwrap the spaghetti, so to speak, and maybe he's really where he shouldn't be?
Well, I mean, you've got to evaluate to see what credits would transfer. But Esther, you bring up a good point there. That's why we're backing up in a stage, and we've partnered up with a consultant named Natalie Beeline. And what Natalie is using is a tool called Indigo that they've used in corporate America for a lot of years to really understand the drivers, the motivators, the likes, and the aptitudes of the students so they pick the right school. Because the biggest problem we have in college today, as far as cost, is students changing majors, changing colleges.
Yep.
Every time you do that, the meter's running,
Yep.
and your dollars are going up.
Yep. I mean, I know several of my clients. Their kids started off in this school, then they thought they were going to go to that school, and now it's 6 years later, and really he's just matriculated like as a sophomore, and they've put in a lot of time and a lot of money, and it just seems to be so good to have somebody to go to do a plan.
Right.
And that's really what you're doing, is a plan.
And as I was saying, one of the mistakes that I see is the parents come in with their son or daughter and they haven't really been involved. But we all know, we've had teenagers. I've got one right now who's going to college next year, and I've got one that just graduated from UB, Chris, with probably your daughter.
Yep.
It's real tough for parents to sometimes communicate directly and really understand what their kid's going through. And I'm never going to knock a guidance counselor, but we put them in an unfair position because a guidance counselor has 350 kids on average they're working with, and half of their time is spent dealing with family issues, problems, behavior issues, etc. They don't have the time to devote to what we're trying to do here to help the families with kids going to school.
All right, so let's say that you're a family getting ready to send kids for school to college, and you really would like to get some financial aid, wouldn't we all, right? Are there things that a family can do to increase their financial aid? And is there anything that they should start looking at in advance? Should they load up a kid's 529 plan? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
So what we do is we look at where they are, and it's like, imagine walking down a road, and the road V's. It's a perfect V. On one side, you're a possible needs-based family. Maybe you're not there yet, and there are some strategies that we can employ to help you qualify for needs-based aid. On the other side, there's no way you're going to qualify for needs-based aid, and there's other things that we do, which would involve the things that Esther and Chris do with Esther and Chris, or if you prepare your own taxes. There are some things that Esther's going to talk about, taking advantage of some of the tax code and be able to get what we call tax scholarships.
Right. And, well, as a matter of fact, we wanted to talk about that. There are things in the tax code right now. There isn't, like, I know Bernie Sanders saying everybody should go for free, but I don't know if everybody understands. There are education credits. The American Opportunity Tax Credit can save up to $2,500 if you have income under $180,000 if you're married filing a joint return for the first 4 years of continuing education. So, and up to $1,000 of it's refundable. And the state of New York also ponies up for the first 4 years of continuing education and can give you
at least $200.
$200 to $400, and if it's an itemized deduction, a little more.
Yep.
And if you use the 529 plan, which is to put money into for your child's education or beneficiary's education, you can put $10,000 if you're single, up to $20,000 married filing a joint return. If you had a kid going to college, that maybe then you're going to spend $8,000, and you put $4,000 in a 529 plan, you would save $240 in New York State, and the balance of it, of $4,000, was paid through student loans or other means. You would get a $2,500 federal tax credit, a $400 New York State credit, and save $240 in because of the 529 plan. So you would end up getting 39% of the cost of that education paid for in scholarship, in
money through the government.
Money
Yeah,
through the
the
government.
IRS scholarships.
Right. And so those are things that you want to make sure that you do as well. And again, if you have any questions, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. And if you're out there thinking about a kid going to college, maybe your kid's in college, maybe you thought, gee, how could you have ever gotten financial aid? What does this Indigo program mean to me? Is that something that I should look at? Give us a call. We have Jeff Bourne, a certified college planning specialist, here on board. He wants to help you get the most that you can for your kid going to college. And we're going to take a short break right now. Break for the news. We'll see you on the other side. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady. Talk to you on the other side.
Over the horizon, smooth sailing, these concrete seas.
I like that. That's a nice song. I like that kind of easy sound. And we're talking about easy. We want to make it easy for you to send your kids to college because it's on everybody's mind. Fall's going to come. You're going to have kids going back to school, and we want to help you. We have Jeff Bourne here, certified college planning specialist. He can help you. This is free help to help you to help your kids to get into college. And be able to not cost so much, right?
That's right. Help you pay that bill or figure out how you're going to do that, how to reduce the cost of college. So I was trained by a CPA. His name was Rick Jarvis out in Plentywood, Montana. And Rick trained us on 153 strategies to reduce the cost of college. So there are different strategies for business owners, different strategies for, people always say, well, who are your best clients? I say business owners or people that are divorced, because the rules work very favorably, and you can work the rules very favorably for those two situations.
So tell me, if I'm somebody, does capital gains affect my ability to get needs-based financing?
Sure does. Anything, Esther, here's a good rule of thumb. Anything on the face of your 1040 is going to affect. So if you're real happy that every year you get a $5,000 tax return. Mm-hmm. And we know a lot of people like that, right? We say,
we do.
You probably shouldn't do that, but, that's my family vacation money. Right. I get $5,000 a year. Well, that $5,000 a year is going to equate to a reduction in your financial aid if you qualify for financial aid. You didn't get any more or less money from the government by getting a tax return.
Right. But people don't know that, Jeff, and that's
right.
What's so interesting.
So there are
they
so
think
many
that
things,
the money
right?
that they're getting back is not their money, but it is their money.
That's right.
So if you have a child going to college, selling stocks and taking your capital gains would not be a good strategy.
Right. Well, it depends on the year. And what's happened now is our favorite president, we call him Obama, I guess.
Yes.
But anyways, he has enacted a new law which has made life easier for people. We're backing up a year for tax returns. So typically we would file financial aid forms in January. We're backing that up to October now, and we're going to use the prior year. So last year we used 2015. This upcoming October we'll use 2015 tax returns as well.
Okay, 2 years in a row.
So 2 years in a row. So now what that means is you really have to start planning a lot earlier, because you're going to use the prior year's tax return. So if we're doing any kind of income strategies, you've really got to come see me freshman, sophomore year. After that, it's over. It's too late.
Right, because the die is cast.
Right. So what I used to consult with people before they change these rules is, hey, we've got these capital gains. Here's some neat things we can do. We're either going to recognize them before our baseline year of filing, or maybe we'll gift some appreciated assets to the kids based on their tax bracket.
Okay, so how about if a parent says, you know what I'm going to do? My strategy is to take money out of my 401k plan to pay for my kids' education.
And I say, great, but let's make sure your 401k is going to be enough for you to retire on. If it's not, that's a really bad strategy, because we're not going to have the money to replace that. And guess what, folks? Someday retirement's going to come whether we like it or not. So the best exercise that I start with parents right away is, many people have multiple kids that are going to go through school. So I say, take your last son or daughter. Now, take the year they're going to graduate from college, and how many years from that year before you would like to retire. Generally, it's 6, 8, 10 years. Now let's take a look at where your retirement balance is and where you are in a scheme of your financial plan, because we've got to make sure that that's all set. College, we can get loans for college, although we don't like borrowing up to the hilt, but students can get student loans for college. I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a retirement loan. I'm too old to work. They don't want me here anymore. They're not going to pay me anymore, and I'm going to go to the bank and get a loan to pay my bills. It's not going to happen.
It doesn't happen. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady from EG Tax. Whether you have somebody getting ready for college, if you've gotten a bill from New York State. I know last week Channel 7 came out, or Channel 2 came out, and did a story on people that are getting their New York State refunds held up because the state wants their W-2s.
And we've asked all the people we've talked to through New York State why, and we get different answers. We even had a gentleman from New York State himself say, why's everybody up in arms? My refund's delayed too. I had to give a copy of my W-2. And we're like, you work for New York State, don't you? Yes. Your paycheck is from New York State, right? Yes. Your W-2 comes from New York State, right? Yes. Why would you have to give back to your employer your W-2?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. This isn't right. I mean, so they're so programmed, these people who answer the phone. This is what you tell them. They don't even think. And then
and it isn't just one employer.
No,
it's multiple employers.
And they say it's for security, for identity theft. If it is, they would be asking for driver's license and other proof of IDs. Right. But it could take up to 120 days for people to get their refund once you submit it.
Yeah,
what's causing it? Is it they just want to hold on to the money?
Yeah, they're holding on to the money, and they have
maybe they're going to send it to Solar City.
They have to pay interest starting June the 1st, and so you see them starting to come up with excuses to hold the money so they don't have to pay the interest. Yeah.
I mean, and we're talking about college. How about parents letting their kids claim their own?
That's another thing. So here you have this money that I was just talking about just before the news that are available through all these tax credits, and the kids beat the parents to the computer, so to speak. The kids claim that the credits. The kids really have no liability. The child may benefit $1,000, but the parents are giving up $3,000. So if you're listening and you haven't taken those credits because your child who's under the age of 24, who's a full-time student, took the credits, amend the returns, amend your child's return, and you'll get an extra around if they spend at least $4,000, an extra $2,000 back in many cases, if not more.
Right. This is an exercise you really have to go through for each family, because there are times where it's going to make sense for the kid to take that credit if he's providing more than half, and he's got an income to support it.
He's got it,
and he's going to max out the credit.
Right.
Or let's say,
very few. Jeff, very few.
Correct.
Times.
Well, let's say Esther, mom and dad are past the phase out.
That's different. That's a horse of different colors.
So that's why I said everything's individual. You got to look at each case.
Right.
Mom and dad, if you're one of those parents that are well over, and you're saying I don't qualify for financial aid or anything like that, you may be shortchanging yourself on financial aid from the IRS. So come see Esther.
That's absolutely true.
She'll help you. Come see me.
I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone. Okay, so typically, what is it that you're looking to do? Not only just the needs-based portion, but making sure that the kid and the college are a good fit, and their career. Kid, college, and career, right?
Correct. And looking at the colleges, so you want to look at the colleges and you want to look at things that we have all the statistics on, their graduation rates. There are some colleges that it is literally impossible to get out in 4 years. So let's take a look at their graduation rates, and let's specifically look at that. We're going to map the student to a career, to a major, to a college, and that college is going to fit financially. So the whole thing has to fit, and what we're really talking about is putting together a comprehensive plan. Regardless of where you go, there's a good chance mom or dad or somebody is going to have to pay a bill. Where is that money coming from?
We were talking before the show about how one of your clients' child wanted to go and get a job which effectively was going to be like a $30,000 a year job after going to this very exclusive school who specializes in this particular field of education, and the child was going to end up with gigantic student loan debt to make $30,000 a year.
Right.
And
So
they
the whole
could have actually went to McDonald's if they passed the $15 an hour.
That's right, they'd make
and
more
make
money.
more money.
But it's interesting, after doing this for so many years, it's very easy, 18-year-olds don't understand the concept of debt or a loan.
That's
and they're
true.
basically told, you can just sign here.
Right.
You might have to get a cosigner. And we all as parents want to do everything we can for our kids, but we want to also stop them from doing
And guide-
foolish
do
decisions.
guidance.
Guide them the right way, not just say, whatever you want, Johnny, whatever you want,
Right.
Susie. And it's the same thing in the schools. Unfortunately, there are a lot of school officials, when they go to get counseling and they say, well, you can be whatever you want, they don't really put in front of them, well, here's what you're going to make and here's what it's going to cost you to
Right.
do that. And that's common sense that I think comes with age.
And the bottom line is that some fields of education where they would teach you, there is no jobs in it, or there are very few jobs, know.
Right.
And so you have to really be very forward thinking. Like, for instance, one of my clients is a pharmacist. Who would know that there's a glut in pharmacy techs now in pharmacists? He was telling me that when his child started pharmacy school, because he's a pharmacist himself, that there was a need. Well, now at the end of the 4 years, the need kind of isn't there because there's a lot of pharmacists.
It's funny, Esther, that goes in 5-6 year cycles. The same thing with teaching, because once the news is out that there's a glut and there's no jobs,
everybody stops going there.
Everybody stops going, then that causes a shortage. So
Right.
it just goes in a trend. So you've got
Somehow
to
it
watch
doesn't
where
seem
the-
like it seems like attorneys though. There's just always a lot of attorneys in New York State anyway.
Right. Now, you were talking about 4-year schools, but I know the new thing with colleges is making a 5-year program with children getting their master's
getting their
degree.
master's, the 3-2 program.
And
right?
how does that work with the financial aid, with everything? Because will they get the financial aid for the full 5 years, or does that stop once they hit the graduate level classes?
One of the things that I do for the families I work with is I carefully go through their award letters. Now, you got to remember, these colleges, they're professional marketing organizations. So I have parents call me up and say, "You're not going to believe this. He got a full ride. And everything's paid for." And I look at the award letter, and it's a loan. And they, but they disguise it very, very well because they put it under aid package, and people don't know what's a Perkins, what's a Plus, all of those different types of loans, and they think they're getting financial aid. So the award letters, you have to really go through them. But Chris, you bring up a really interesting point, because sometimes those are front loaded. And just to get the kid to go to the school, because if the kid really gets accustomed and likes the school,
They'll stay there.
They'll stay there, but it's not guaranteed for year 2, 3, and 4. So they front load the award, and they don't specifically say this is good for 4 years. Or many schools will say you need to get a 3.0 or a 3.2 to continue this award, otherwise it's dropping off.
All right, I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady from EG Tax. If you have any questions, comments, if your child has just gone to school or is going to school and you need help, we have our special guest, Jeff Boron, here from the Financial Guys. His phone number is 689-7477, 689-7477. He'll give you great help for education, and the cost of education really is... It's mind-boggling, and you want to make sure that it's like buying anything. You want to make sure that you're a wise steward of what you have, and Jeff is going to help you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back on the other side. 8030930 star 930 on a cell phone. I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady. See you on the other side.
Heading down south to the land of the pines and
Quite a mix of music today.
Boy, I'll tell you. I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady from EG Tax. We have a special guest in studio today. We have Jeff Boron, certified college planning specialist, and it's absolutely great to just sit here and chit-chat in between while we're on a news break or a commercial break to pick his brain, because he is so knowledgeable at all these things that we spend. I mean, people used to say buying a house was the most expensive thing that you spend money on, then a car, but really, it's college.
It's college.
And I mean,
some people are spending more.
Who's driving the bus? It's the 18-year-old.
Right. Well, that's one of the things that I say sometimes when I do workshops is, would you let your sometimes 17-year-old son or daughter make a $200,000 decision for your family?
But they do.
They do. And it's got to be a family decision, and everybody has to understand the ground rules. And I know it's difficult for a lot of parents to communicate with their, son or daughter who's 17 or 18. I know that's tough, but everything's got to be put in perspective, because this is a huge financial undertaking, and there's ways to do it, and then there's ways to shoot from the hip.
Well,
and do
I have
it totally
to tell you,
wrong.
when my kids were getting ready to go to college, the two of them, because I have a second marriage, and I had two daughters the exact same age, and they were talking about going to Wharton. And I said, wow, you guys are going to Wharton? That's remarkable. Who's going to pay for it? And they said, well, you are, Mom. And I said, no, I'm not, because I don't even know if you're going to do well. I said, we have all these universities here, and you're going to go to a New York State school for at least 2 years. Mm-hmm. And let's see what you do. Well, then we can always transfer to Wharton if you're doing good. But they ended up staying and both getting, one of them got multiple degrees, the other one's got multiple, and they both have great jobs, and they're great women, and they walked out with no debt.
Right.
Which to me is the coolest thing.
It's really cool if you can do that. A lot of times, when there's going to be a bill to pay, I encourage families to have the son or daughter take out a Stafford loan, $5,500 for their freshman year. They don't have to get a cosigner for that. And it puts a little bit of skin in the game, if you know what I mean. Because I've seen families, the kids have been very spoiled. They've never paid for a thing. They've got the brand new car that they're driving to high school. And they get to college, and it's a whole new world of freedom. And they don't know that mom and dad are paying a lot of money for this. They may not even know. Mom and dad wrote the check, and there's nothing in it for them, and they end up not performing real well. And, liking the party life a little too much, not paying attention. Hey, I don't have to go to class. Why bother?
Right.
I'll just sleep in. I think, and when I work with families, I really want the student to do the loan application online, not mom and dad doing it for him. I want them to understand that they're taking out a loan, and they've got something in this too. And I think that's real important for a lot of families. Not for everybody, but for a lot of families.
Chris, you said you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I have a question. We get asked because we're very intimate with people with their finances doing taxes, because it's involved in every aspect of their life. When is the right time to start saving for their children's education? Because you hear different reports. When they're born, start putting money aside. Then you have the other people on TV saying, pay your mortgage off first, then worry about your kids' education. What's your philosophy on
There's one of those answers I hate to give, depends, because what we have to look at is the comprehensive thing, not just college in a vacuum or something. We've got to look at their whole financial situation and put together a plan. When we do things, we typically look at where are expenses, not that we care where they're spending money, but how much are you spending, how much are you making, and where should that extra money go to? Should it go to retirement? Should it go to paying down a mortgage debt? Or should it go to saving for college? And, if the parents are 45 years old and have zero in retirement savings and there's no pension at the end of the rainbow, that's an obvious answer.
Pension. Yeah.
Right. So it really depends, but if it's possible to save for college, right when the child is born would be great, because you've got the most years to do that. But you really got to look at that whole timeline and where the money should be allocated to. Unfortunately, we don't have endless supplies.
And the bottom line is, let's say that Grandma and Grandpa started funding a 529 plan for a kid, so he's now got $100,000, and Mom and Dad are at $30,000 in income. If they didn't have the 529, the kid would have probably went to school for free. Is that not true?
That's true. So there are different places to save that I can show people. There are some very creative strategies that we can do and kind of think out of the box. A lot depends. The rules have just been changed for students who will be going to school starting school in 2017. They changed actually in 2016, and they actually got a little bit worse for needs-based family, and something called an asset protection allowance, which means how much money mom and dad can have in a non-retirement account before it starts to affect their financial aid. And a general rule of thumb for most families I worked with was about $42,000 before. So we don't have a lot of families in Western
So
New
they
York
could have had stocks.
stocks,
right?
bonds, or money in the bank.
Right.
You know, I've got 42.
Right.
So it wasn't a big problem. The Obama administration has just reduced that, and for most families, it's probably going to be under $10,000
That's
now.
something.
Under $10,000, and it'll affect your financial aid. So that's something we really got to work on.
I know. We were talking during the week because I had a client in my office and I called you. On a 529 plan, if it's under the grandparent's name as the holder,
It's not counted as an asset.
it's not counted as an asset on the financial aid. So it would be better instead
So the
of
grandparent.
instead of giving it to their children to put in a 529, the grandparents should put it in their name with listed their grandchild as the beneficiary.
Right.
And there are some ways to do that. Technically, sometimes if the grandparents take a withdrawal, the student should put that as a resource to the college. Most people don't. It's just like you have a garage sale. Technically, you're supposed to pay sales tax, right? I don't know how many people do that. I mean, those are all the technicalities.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. But see, those are really some. You know, you'll be working with a grandma and grandpa, and they want to give it to the kid, but in many cases, it isn't in the kid's best interest.
That's right, because if they gift it to the kid, then the student assets are assessed very, very heavily. Because what if the college, you look at how this whole system was developed, not that I agree with it, but the colleges are saying, hey, this kid's got $10,000.
That's right. We're not going to give the parents any money.
He's going to
Let
use
him
it for
pay.
school.
Let Junior pay for his own.
Right. So
And that's absolutely true. And so it becomes really a conundrum. And if you're somebody or you're a grandparent and you have a kid that's going to go to college in the next couple of years, now think about this. If they just lowered the amount of exemption from 40-some to 50,000 down to 10,000, those are planning things. And this would be non-qualified.
Well, right.
So into qualified plans like pensions, that's different.
That's right. Or there's other types of vehicles that wouldn't be assessed, but just know where you are. So I always say the best thing is come on in, get a snapshot of where you are, and kind of get a reality check so that you know what's coming. And then we'll see if there's something we can do or I can do to help you. I'll let you know. Otherwise, I'm going to give you some tips.
The other thing you were telling me is sometimes you appeal decisions.
Yes, I'm appealing. I've done about 8 appeals in the past 2 weeks. May 1st was kind of our deadline, and schools are getting out award letters intentionally late. But appeals are usually based on some special circumstances that the colleges don't know. So I'll give you a good one locally. We have many students going to schools like Narden, Canisius, St. Joe's, Mount St. Mary's, and parents have paid a lot of money in tuition for high school. That's a consideration that financial aid directors are supposed to take into mind when they're giving award. However, they don't know anything about it because there's nowhere on any financial aid form
that says where they went.
that says where you went to high school.
Wow.
So if you got a parent that had maybe 2 kids going to private school, that's $20,000 a year. And the financial aid directors should take that in consideration when doing the award. That usually
now,
comes
would that
through
be
an
at more private colleges or public?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, both. But that's a cost of higher education that was kind of built in. So
one other thing, and I know we're running short of time, but you were saying that you were working with a kid who was saying what he wanted to do, and basically what you did was you started off with, okay, so if you do this, here's what your debt's going to be.
Right.
All right, so if you have that debt, then this is what your payment's going to be on that debt
Right.
when you're a grown-up, right? And so now when you pay your taxes and your rent and your thing, and that means that you have to be eating
Ramen
air.
noodles.
Yeah. Well, essentially what it comes out to is, as I was saying, the students oftentimes say, I'll just take out a loan. Whenever I first meet parents or students, I say, well, how are you going to pay for school? Common answer, loans and scholarships. Well, let's take scholarships, let's hope. Let's maybe try to help you with that. But let's take a look at loans. So now here's the debt load. You're coming out of school. Here's your starting salary in that career. Here's your college loan payment. Here's your car payment. Here's your apartment payment. We don't have enough money. So either you're not going to eat, you're not going to drive, or you're moving back in with mom and dad. One of those has to happen.
And that is, I mean, that's kind of one of them come to Jesus meetings. I mean, where you really need to make that decision.
Also, now with loans, schools will only, with the new federal laws, children themselves are only entitled to like $5,500 a year. Then it's the Parent Plus loans,
right.
Which, hello parents, you're responsible if your kids stop paying.
Right. A Parent Plus loan is a loan in a parent's name only. That student's name is not even attached to the loan. So, and I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a while, so I had parents, they wanted to keep their son happy. They sent him to a very expensive school, and they took out a $40,000 Parent Plus loan. The son took no debt on himself, ended up staying in the dorm playing video games instead of going to class.
Yeah.
Flunked out. That loan doesn't go away.
Yep.
Parents now owe $40,000.
But again, remember, if you do graduate and you are working for a not-for-profit, which would mean City of Buffalo, for any not-for-profit, if you're paying your loan timely for 10 years and you apply, that loan is forgiven. So that's something we want to talk about.
Huge consideration.
Anyway, I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady from EG Tax. If you need Jeff, his phone number is 689-7477. 689-7477. Call him. He'll help you with your kids. Thanks a lot. I'm Esther Golias. Bye-bye.